Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Rethinking Distribution, the Marketplace Model in Action across APAC. I'm Jerome Dela Cruz, Director of Business Development for APAC at HyperGuest, and I'll be your moderator today, speaking live from Jakarta, Indonesia. Let me start with a few questions. For hotels who are tuned in, how much control do you really have over your B2B distribution? Can you actually see who books your rooms? And for agents or travel companies, what if you could expand your inventory and still keep your direct strategy intact? The reality is clear. Transparency is missing. Contracting is slow. And now, a new model called Marketplace promises to address these issues. The question now is, are we at the start of a marketplace driven future? And to explore this, we brought together three voices from across the ecosystem, representing both demand and supply. Each brings their own perspective and experience to the table. We'll hear how hotels are tackling distribution challenges, how B2B intermediaries are navigating partnerships, and how OTAs are adapting their strategies in this changing space. This session is about exploring those ideas, learning from real experiences, and opening up an honest conversation. The big question we'll tackle today is, are we heading towards a marketplace driven world? As we go along, please drop your questions, okay, on the box below, and we'll dedicate the time later for Q&A and address as many as we can. And without further ado, we dive into the discussion. And I'd like now to invite our panelists, our first panelist for this afternoon, to briefly introduce themselves, share your role, and a little about your company so everyone has a context. And first up, we have Mr. Sunish Sadasivan, Vice President of E-commerce and Revenue Management, Chroma Hospitality, one of the leading hospitality groups in the Philippines. Sunish, welcome to the show.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure being here, though my voice is a bit out, so I hope I can take out the voice for the hoteliers. So I'm Sunish Sadasivan. I'm the Vice President of E-commerce and Revenue Management. Chroma Hospitality, a homegrown Filipino hospitality brand. We manage Crimson and Quest as well as Timberland and a golf course called Mimosa Golf Course in the Philippines. We also run few standalone restaurant brands and look forward to sharing. Thank you.
Well done. That was short but sweet, Sunish. And yep, looking forward to your insights and thoughts later. Next, we have Mr. Chun-Yi, Director of Business Development at PKFARE, one of the fastest growing companies in Asia today. Chun, welcome.
Thank you, Jerome. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Chun, and I work at PKFARE. So PKFARE is a leading B2B travel product wholesaler. We focus on providing curated air and hotel contents for our clients. So the company was founded like 11 years ago by our two founders, and we have been growing very fast since then. And since last year, PKFARE joined Ubisoft to become a company of Ubisoft Group. Myself, I manage commercials in general at the PKFARE Hotel team, and I focus on growth and strategic partnership. It's a pleasure to join the discussion today. Thank you.
Nice. Thanks, Chun. And then last but not the least, Mr. Sachin Kumar, founder of Tripka.com, a fast-growing OTA from Thailand that's quickly building a strong presence in the region and making its mark in the travel space. Sachin, Kapkun Kap. Welcome to the show.
Hi guys, sorry Kap. Good afternoon. My name is Sachin. I'm the co-founder of Tripka.com. We are the first multi-city hotel booking combo, OTA, multi-city hotel booking OTA. We have seen trends in Asia where people travel in tandem, 2 cities or more. So we've built a solution for them now. You can book 2 hotels directly in one booking. My role is mostly managing the commercial, being face of the company. We are in a very early stage, not like Sunish or Chun-Yi's company, but we are about a year-old company and making a decent progress in this marketplace. Thank you.
Okay, there you have it. So we have our three gentlemen today to tackle the marketplace model that's been disrupting Asia Pacific. And first of all, before we start, gentlemen, I'd like to thank each of you for taking on the challenge. And do note that we are making history as this is one of the first panel to talk about this new technology that's now being known in the region. Now, let's proceed to the first part of our discussion today. And the first part is about marketplace versus traditional. Okay, so this is a big debate because there's always a juxtaposition of old versus new when we're confronted or presented with new technology. And in traditional contracting model, hotels negotiate directly with intermediaries, offering static contracted rates or even negotiated bar. And on the agent side, this means approaching hotel one by one, often integrating to multiple channel managers, PMS just to access inventory. Clearly, this approach is slow and resource heavy and leaves both sides with limited visibility. And I'd like to begin this with a very nice quote from an American famous person who's been very into disruptive technology that I recently chanced upon. That he highlighted that new markets are created not by beating the competition, but by changing the game. This has been coined by Clayton Christensen. He's an American academic and business consultant who developed the theory of disruptive innovation, which has been called the most influential business idea of early 21st century. Now, going back to old and new, the first question I'd like to pose this question to the gentleman from the Philippines. Sunish, when you first heard about this model, what were your initial thoughts and what made you give it a try?
All right, okay. I think I'll start with something like actually for me it's not a new model. We tried few of them in the past, but I would say HyperGuest actually changed the whole game because with the initial ones who started this marketplaces, we went with them like I'll go back, right? I'm sure many of the hoteliers here work with maybe 10 or 15 or 20 channels. In our case, in Chroma, we work with 35 channels. So we manage 35 channels from our corporate office for all our hotels. And every time a new channel comes in, whatever their potential is, we will not connect to them if they do not have a channel manager connecting it. So there are a lot of times a travel agency or B2B or even a B2C comes in, says, oh, we do not have that connectivity yet. But that's changing with someone like HyperGuest or a marketplace coming in because right now, most of the, like I'll tell you, like PKFARE, I did not knew about them before. And now they are one of our producing companies and we do a good business together actually. And obviously, I also have to look at it from a different point because with a lot of things happening like the digital travel, digital tax and all that happening, one of the big changes is that we are also moving towards the B2B business wherein we are putting more and more rates into the B2B world. But if we don't have the same control if we do it on other channels or in a direct channel, right? Whereas in a marketplace, we can go and we can give that rate out to everybody at the same rates and we can control that. But in many other places, you cannot control that. And that control is something which as a hotelier you need. Thank you.
Interesting. I really what you mentioned, Sunish, about this concept is something that has been shared with you in the past, but only recently, that especially when you to for the context of our viewers. So when we were in Manila, when we were having like a discussion about HyperGuest, just a follow-up question on that, what made you decide, okay, now is the time, let's give this a try?
At the end of the day, being a company which has been very digitally first, and we are one of those, I'll tell you, as early as 2007, we were doing stay 3, pay 2 deals on Expedia, which nobody at that time heard about. And obviously, I increased the prices, and I still remember Mr. Chai from Expedia calling me at that time from Hong Kong saying that, hey, you cannot increase the price for this. He is with C-Trip now.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. So when I heard about marketplaces in the beginning, we went out there, we tried it out. But obviously, after a few months of known production and all that, we just thought, okay, there's no need to give too much of importance to this. Just leave it there as one of the connected channels. But with HyperGuest, I think, to be fair, when we started it, there was an immediate bookings. So the booking started in 2 hours from the time the first hotel was connected. And that made a big change that we obviously started seeing. In the beginning, did not have those controls in place. We started understanding the model. We started understanding how things work. And obviously, one of the best thing is that there's a lot of flexibility in the way we work. So now we can really control and say that this is how we want to send the rates out. This is all the things which we wanted to be in those bookings. And we get that with this model. And that control or flexibility makes a big change as a hotelier.
Interesting. I think one thing that you highlighted very importantly there is that innovation can only reach to some extent if there's no conversion or business or use case that could support the idea. Thanks for that, Sunish. What a way to start the session this afternoon. Now, let's go to Chun. Okay? We just heard from a supply perspective, from the hotel perspective. Now, we're jumping off to the other fence on the booker's perspective, on the demand's perspective. Chun, from a demand perspective, how does the marketplace structure change the way you connect with hotels? Now, before I let Chun answer, PKFARE is one of the companies who have successfully transitioned from flights to hotels. And I think this is particularly very important because some companies are sticking to what the segment or what's the main core business that they're delivering. But PKFARE has shown exponential growth in the region, has been very known in Asia Pacific in a short period of time. And how does it change, especially when chancing upon a marketplace company? How does it change the structure specifically on how you connect with hotels?
Yeah, it improves in so many ways, but I would say the best part is probably the efficiencies. So in the marketplace, we get to connect with the hotels with just one click on the button, right? And even better, being part of the ecosystem, we know the partners in the group, they are high value and they are trusted. So working with the hotel partners through the marketplace, we not only improve the efficiency, but we also grow business with added value. And the next one I would say is just as important is the compliance. So marketplace provide transparency so that we see very clearly hotels with different rate types, with different rules. And as a wholesaler, we create the right product and we offer to the right channel with demand, right? That's what we do. And it's not easy when on the one side, we have like 500,000 of hotels as a supply with different rates. And on the other side, we have like hundreds or even thousands of channels, open or close, online or offline, B2B or B2C. Every day, we're like playing the puzzles. So the transparency of marketplace actually makes it much easier for us to connect demand with the supply, right? And distribution is complex. HyperGuest actually has a chart talking about the whole distribution ecosystem. I learned a lot from that. And we don't expect the distribution to be less complicated, but technology makes it easier to manage and makes it more organized and makes it with increase of transparency. So working in the marketplace, we join force to be a responsible and trusted partners who offer products with compliance. I think that's very important for us. Yeah.
What a way to put it, interestingly, because now I think with all this disruption in the market, we're looking at two main things for our companies, may it be hotel or OTAs or B2B, wherein we try to strategize between automation and augmentation. Augmentation, wherein we give our employees or our team tools that can make them produce or increase their efficiency. And what I like about what you're saying, Chun, is that when you strategize on automation, you're not only looking at your internal resources, but there are things that you could also have other companies to automate it so your team can focus on more high value decisions and strategies. And I couldn't agree more with what you mentioned. Now, okay, of course, this discussion will not be complete without an OTA perspective. We're going from the PKFARE is somehow also an OTA, but Sachin is also doing a very great job in Thailand. And our question for you, Sachin, is from the OTA perspective, how do you explain the marketplace model to other agencies who still rely heavily on traditional sourcing? This is very exciting because I came from an OTA myself. And at some point, I could only relate on the difficulty in contracting. And especially your market, your viewers on the web, is not really looking at one space only. They're looking at probably within the country or even cross-regional, even worldwide. Especially now, the awareness and the accessibility of information that they can know what to book in Argentina, for example. And would like to pick your brain on this, Sunish, Sachin. We're in how do you explain this model to OTAs who are still relying heavily on traditional sourcing?
Thanks, Jerome. I think Sunish and has already shared quite a few things which I can probably pick into my conversation. So as an OTA, particularly the one which is in a really early stage, if I go to a hotel chain or a hotel, trying to get them on board on my inventory side, it's almost impossible. And I get the point from Sunish's side that if there is no conversion, there is no value. You need to see the resources you're investing, time you're investing. So being a new partner, I think it's almost impossible to get this inventory directly. Having the marketplace access, it gives us, I think if I put it into one line, it advanced our development by 1 year, if not more. I had to spend less time going to the hotels, contracting them directly. I think I remember when I first got the API and everything live from your marketplace, my team told me there were about 6,000 hotels in the places where we were looking. I was overwhelmed by the number of hotels we had access to. I think in summary, it saves a lot of money on human resources for business expansion, getting the inventory. It also is a win-win situation for the hotels and OTAs like us, where hotels can also see if the booking is coming from us, they can further negotiate in near future because they can track the data in your marketplace. We can track that data and present it to them. For us, I think it's a game changer, giving us access to the real-time inventory, and it's in lightning fast speed, I must say. This is something very impressive.
I like what you highlighted there, Sachin, we're in, because I think we could agree that our industry is really relationship-based. In the past, most of the success of travel companies, OTAs, B2B, and hotels are based on relationships, right? And then this technology helps add in another factor of data in the system. For example, with what Sachin highlighted, we're in, it saved him a lot of time explaining that I can deliver to this hotel because the hotel can see that, hey, I have production with you. It's just so happened that I don't have the time before and the resources to speak with you, but now I do, and let's talk. But in the past, this situation is almost considered impossible because most of the time, the real bookers are not really presented transparently in the ecosystem. Therefore, we are now at the precipice of balancing relationship and really data and the conversion-driven partners in the market. What a way to start this. Thank you very much for those inputs. Now, as for every disruptor, for every new technology, there are always winners and losers. Okay, every shift in business creates winners and losers, and it's never ever neutral. When we had the proliferation of online travel agencies, I'm sure that was back 1990s to early 2000. So I'm sure there are a lot of travel companies that are doing purely offline that could have an opinion as to, okay, we lost business because of that. So there are winners and losers. And then I think this kind of model and any kind of disruptor in the market are having no exemption. And in the distribution, to move toward marketplaces, it's raising a very tough question wherein who stands to gain more control, visibility, and revenue in this new marketplace driven ecosystem, and who risks of losing leverage, margin, or even relevance. Now, I want you to be very candid on this, okay? And this panel is a safe space to talk about it. And please be very candid on your opinion. Let's start with June, okay? This, I think a lot of wholesalers, agents are listening now, and even hoteliers who are very keen to know about what's going to happen in this segment or what will be the impact to this segment. And the question is, what role do wholesalers have in this new environment? Can they adapt or are they being left behind?
Yeah, I think wholesalers not only can be a supporter, but also can be a driving force for a clean distribution in the ecosystem. Okay, so wholesalers as an intermediary in the distribution ecosystem, connecting supply with demand. And the challenge is very obvious. We are trying to find orders in a very big, complex environment. Yeah, I'm talking about the rate parity. Okay, so at PKFARE, we're responsible and we follow rules because we care about the partnership with hotels, partnership with our distribution partners. Okay, our intention is to sell with compliance, period. But sometimes the thing is, sometimes with so many different supplies, hotel rate, and so many channels, credentials, on the other hand, we're kind of trapped in the middle. Okay, but now we have a marketplace that provides clear rate, easy connectivity, and we finally have the support that we need to scale our business in a sustainable way. And as for the question of can wholesalers adapt, I can't speak for everyone, but I have seen that so many wholesalers, they're adapting. Okay, in our industry, wholesalers, they're agile, they're flexible in terms of operations, in terms of the technology. Many wholesalers, they have very good technology. So I think it makes it possible and easier to adapt to the new model. Yeah. Our role, not only a supporter, a kind of a pushing force to make it happen.
Interesting. You highlighted the role of wholesalers in the marketplace that not only will still be relevant, but also they need to adapt and evolve also to this changing environment. And I think you mentioned one of the phenomena in our travel industry about rate parity. I think a lot of us will have, I can see Sunish and Sachin already have having their own thoughts on this. And yeah, I think to be very honest, rate parity now is something that I considered understudied in our space. Clearly, obviously, we try to assume that rate parity is something is going to be achievable in the current space wherein we tend to ignore the complexity of the systems at the back end. If you think it's something that can be controlled, you ignore that part that, hey, there are legacy systems, there are companies who have been there and then their tech stacks might be on different aspects. And second, you tend to ignore also that not all guests, for example, are looking at parity rates. I was just, at least from what I read a couple of weeks ago, where especially when clients who are looking for the best deals, when they look at the parity rates, they tend to ignore it because they're looking at, okay, as long as you have the better deal in this segment, I will book it, may it be direct website or whatever. So there are also market that caters to that. So that's my reason why I think there should be more study about this rate parity phenomena. And clearly, one of the players that could aid in alleviating and mitigating this will still be the wholesalers. Now, okay, let's go to Mr. Sachin from the OTA perspective. Okay, so especially for up and coming players like you, does marketplace access level the playing field for smaller OTAs or make it harder to stand out? Especially you're gonna be, I'm not gonna say facing, but rather you're gonna be standing on the shoulder of the giants. There are players who have been there with massive, almost unlimited resources are gonna be fighting against with from the market share perspective. So how does this marketplace plays a role in terms of your competitive advantage?
Thanks, Jerome. I think it's on a very positive side at this moment, I must say. When you are starting a new company as a new OTA, as I think you started the conversation with, there's no need to change things, instead enhance the same products or similar experience. So we are an OTA, so we allow people to book, we enable people to book hotels, but not just one. We allow them to book two as one transaction. So this is a new idea. For us to validate this, we needed access to the inventory. Instead of building the whole thing from the scratch and then stretch our resources, spend our money building the stuff. So on a very positive side, marketplace was a game changer for us, getting the access. And so in a way, it was very favorable. Difficult to stand out in some ways, I would agree, because being a new OTA, at the same time, I think hotels are also very careful what rates they give us. I have seen it in comparison with bigger players like Booking.com, Agoda, Expedia, because they have strong membership program. So we don't generally receive the similar deals even from the marketplace until we really produce some value for the hotels and then reach out to them again. But I think it's a fair comparison from the hotel side also to draw, because chunk of their business is coming from these big guys. But in terms of validating the idea, getting started, trying to find what do we need to do to scale up, I think marketplace was really vital for us to get into.
It's a catapult, I must say. And yeah, I think it's especially in your case, you're bundling properties, therefore your inventory requirement is almost 2 times or 3 times than the normal OTA that's coming to the market. Lovely. Thanks for that. Now, we go to Mr. Sunish. Okay, I think you mentioned that you work with both traditional and marketplace models. So far, what has been the biggest operational or commercial difference that you've encountered? Okay. Hello? I think we're having like a...
Yeah, I was just trying to unmute.
Okay.
I'm back. Sorry. All right. So I think working with both traditional and marketplace models, right? Operationally, obviously, there has been challenges in few cases. But I think commercially, looking at it, we are seeing better ADR. Not by much, maybe by around 2.5% for some of our hotels. And obviously, we are talking about the top three, the big three. Everybody knows the big three. I'll not name them. But as Sachin was talking about them, like Booking.com in that example, I would say that the contribution from them is reducing. And as a hotel which is in Philippines right now, where OTA model is becoming more and more expensive, not only because of commissions, but also because of things like the digital travel tax coming in, wherein everything which is coming on Booking.com, Agodas, are additional 12% taxes have to be paid. So what is happening is that for us commercially, it's making sense to go the HyperGuest way, the marketplace way, because that's where we can say that we have the control, plus the rates we set out is the rate which we want to get. There is no commission in there to show. There's nothing else to show in there. So that makes a big difference for a hotel like us. So that's a big difference to, especially the difference to the OTAs and all that. Operationally, obviously in the beginning, when there are certain channels which it's the same like what we were talking about before about rate parity. Everybody sells into everything. So obviously someone who has been producing with us directly some time back, they start coming in and start saying that, hey, 50% of my business has gone because it's going through some other sources. So obviously that is something which is still something like we also have to make sure that we manage those expectations and relationships. Like you said before, hospitality is all about relationships, right? Yeah, so it's about balancing that, but while also looking at commercially how we can make our distribution as effective as possible in terms of both cost as well as reachability. But a place like when you go to a marketplace and when you said that, hey, we are connected to, let's say, 1,000 agents, 1,000 OTAs and 1,000 agents. That makes a big difference because in the past I would not work with them. Because obviously I don't want to work with a channel which may not have a direct connectivity, and that makes a big difference. Yeah, that's it. And going back to that wholesaler thing, I don't think wholesalers are going anywhere. I'll go back to 2016 when meta search engines started first. Who were the first ones who were selling on meta search? That's wholesalers. Every rate available in the first 1 year of meta searches was all wholesale rates coming in. And even today, you go to any Chinese meta search and search for it, you will find the top 3 rates will be coming from one of the B2B or a wholesaler, which you may have no contract with. So I guess it's more about them also having that connectivity. But I also think that if they are all in a model like a marketplace model, everybody gets similar rates, everybody has the option to put their own markups. Because at the end of the day, as a hotel, we can decide this is $1,000 per night is the room rate which we want to get. That's it. So if tomorrow we want to get 1,200, as long as the market is receptive to that rate increase, we'll go and put in that rate of 1,200. And it's really up to the agents and whoever is taking those rates to go in and mark up the way they want to sell it the best.
Exactly. And I want you to reserve more of your thoughts about that later because we're going to be talking more about that context. And then I agree with you because though I think we need to highlight here that when we say the definition of wholesalers are the ones that are able to go online with the capability of having a technology that connects online. And later, please reserve that. We're going to be talking more on that. And thanks for the inputs. Now, clearly, in terms of winners and losers, it highly depends on the perspective and the strategy of the hotel. More likely, this channel is giving our friends from the hotel side options to balance their distribution strategy, especially when marketplace models are aiding to the direct strategy of the hotels. Direct strategy, therefore, at some point, I think this is in the middle of the OTA and direct, which is, I think, very beneficial to having that option. Now, I think let's go to the thing that Sunish highlighted earlier, that it's at the end of the day, I need production to share it with my owners. I need to know if it's really viable because if no one buys it, then it's not an effective model. So we go to the third part of our discussion wherein we're going to be talking about the commercial wins. Okay. At the end of the day, as they say, no money, no honey. Yeah. So we focus on what's really more important, the commercial wins. And I know the data now is a little bit premature because we're just less than a year understanding this model. But I think that is already enough. And the reason why we're having this discussion is because we're seeing good signals about this model. And for our viewers and listeners, that's, I think, whatever intake and whatever insights that we're going to be sharing is pragmatically enough for them already to draw some clear takeaways about marketplace. Going back to Sunish, okay, as one of the early adopters in the Philippines, how has your internal distribution strategy changed since coming on board, especially where distribution control play a role? Distribution control, I think at some point you highlighted it earlier, but can you share at least one commercial win since adopting the marketplace model?
I think I already highlighted that the 2% ADR increase, which we saw in the last few months, and that's a big thing. And obviously, in the past, it was more difficult for us when there was no marketplaces to connect to, let's say, someone like PK who specialize in airline bookings as a package. And we started seeing them as one of the major contributor of our business. And obviously that, and other than that, I think one of the other things which I like about marketplaces is that there's certain markets out there which in the past you would not see, like some of the European business which has started to come in to our hotels, which we had never seen in the past, especially in our online distribution world. And I was like surprised to see that. And obviously that was because we were connected through a marketplace to agents. And it's not only for HyperGuest, it's also for the other marketplaces we work with, that we start seeing a new channel coming in. But obviously, one thing which everybody has to remember is that whenever a new business model comes in, a new platform comes in, some of the business which you may be getting in the past would be mixed up into the same business as well. So that's something which is non-negotiable. It will be happening. But what you really have to look at is that what is the new business which is coming in? If you're getting 10 to 15% of the additional business from that channel being coming from a new market, which you had no access to in the past, that's a big commercial win.
Exactly. And not to mention the cost that you will save in terms of, in the past, you normally have your sales to fly to those areas to explore business, cast a wider net to try to get some of those potential agents. But now, just by activating this, you get to somehow cast a virtual net to those agents. And on the other side, we're also giving them opportunity to say hi to you, because for some possible reason, they might be trying to reach out to hotel, but they don't have any means or ways to communicate with you. But now in the marketplace, they can say hi to you and learn more about your product and your unique selling points. Interesting. Now,
Payments. I think it makes it very easy with the payments as well. You make sure that you get payments for every booking, and it's all guaranteed.
Exactly. And that's a very interesting point, because a lot of times when we try to expand from the hotel perspective, when we try to expand the players or partners that wants to book our business, we can easily say hi to them and communicate with them. But when it comes to payments and you're not ready to accept their payments, let's say, for example, you're looking at, let's say, Spain, for example, you're looking at market that's the currency is not really like friendly to your home country. That's really the main, some hotels might even consider that as a non-negotiable, right? And this model simplifies it. The hotel, I just want to make sure that the price is pragmatic and strategic enough. I'm not going to say best and affordable, strategic enough for that market. And when it comes to payment, just sit back and you'll get the VCC. Yep, thanks for highlighting that, Sunish. Now, from the OTA perspective, an OTA based in Thailand, for example, now exploring the neighboring countries. I'm sure this is going to be part of your 3 to 5 year strategy for the company. Now, have you noticed hotels become more strategic or experimental once they connected to the marketplace?
Yeah, Jerome, you have asked me this question a bit too early, but let me try and answer this. I think our connectivity with using marketplace with hotels is still in less than 1,000 overall, which we use more actively. And we have seen, if not more, at least 20 to 30% hotels are actually inclined to give us better deals, depending on how many people are actually looking at their properties. They have access to our data. They can see the same data through the marketplace, which I think make them more confident. So they have been experimenting. Some of our partners have been experimenting, giving us now similar discount like the bigger players. Again, now I will not mention the bigger player's name. So I think there are experiments, and I think it has a lot to do what Sunish has highlighted is the control. So if we were a traditional partner contracting with them directly with no connectivity, so if you gave me a particular rate today, it's sellable until I put a stop sale on this as a hotel. But in marketplace, I think the control is there. So if you want to change the rates, it changes. If you want to close it, it gets closed. If you want to give deeper discount just for, let's say, 3 days, 4 days, that's possible. So I think that part, there's a lot of dynamic flexibility is there. So hotels are experimenting. Hotels are actually also buying into the idea of a new concept. Like for us, we guarantee them that there would not be any rate parity because 90% of our bookings are combo of hotels, as I keep mentioning this once again. So we never actually tell any guest how much are you paying for each hotel. So there's a lot of experimenting happening from some of our partner. I cannot name them at this moment, but we're getting rates experiments, we're getting inventory experiment, we're getting benefits experiments more than anything else. Yeah.
Interesting, because you're doing it on technically on an opaque mode. It's bundled. And yeah, I think one of the support that this model has extended to Tripka, because you're technically also introducing a new concept in the market. And sometimes explaining on all angles, front, back, left, center, takes a lot of time and energy. And now since you already have this settled, you can focus more of your time to explaining what Tripka is rather than the technical part. Okay? Now we go to Chun. Okay? Chun, PKFARE has grown quickly in the marketplace ecosystem. What kind of growth or success stories can you share from the region?
Yeah.
By the way, Chun, before you answer, sorry, I think some of the audience are asking, what's the meaning of PKFARE?
PKFARE is in PK. It means to compete. Okay, in Chinese society, I guess we normally use PK to compete. And FARE is fair, hotel fare, PKFARE. The meaning is we're able to provide a very good rate.
Okay.
That's the meaning.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I'll go on to share the story of success. So I was looking into improving our direct contract business, and I was looking for hotel partners for collaboration. And APAC, well, naturally, is one of our key destination regions. When I was looking for a hotel partner, quickly came to my mind is archipelago hotels. They have great hotels in good position, in good location, and we have so many demands for them. And plus, that Chris is a good friend, so it's perfect, right, to work with archipelago. The only thing is creativity. We can do the traditional way, but that would cost us more time and resources. So it was a bit of difficult. Although the decision to work with archipelago was very easy, but talking about how do we work with them is getting a little bit complicated. Yeah. So we had a discussion, and both Chris and I agree that working through the marketplace of HyperGuest is the best solution for us, and the rest is history. Yeah. So we actually quickly grew the sales to near 3 digits of bookings every day now. And we have recently achieved a very good partnership deal with, and all this wouldn't happen without connecting to the marketplace. Yeah.
Yep, interesting. Because that's, I think, a very prudent strategy we're in, especially when you're expanding. The first thing you would target are the chains, international or maybe regional chain. But the thing is, these chains are technically the first question that they will ask if can you connect or not. And if you, at some point, I understand sometimes, the corporate office or head office, we just want more business. And when we expand, sometimes there are technological barriers that needs to be there for us to get those clients. And then, yep, I think we're very happy to support PKFARE on that aspect. And so far, how is it in terms of competitiveness in your front end, Chun? Is there anything that you want to share about on the front end of your stores?
Yeah, the competitiveness is great because on the marketplace, we can negotiate with the partners, hotel partners, and then we set the rate, right? We set the promotion, which is special rate, and it's automatically loaded on the marketplace. So for us, it's actually saving us a lot of technical resources, technical efforts to try and connect with the hotel directly. So what we need to do is get a good deal with the hotel, discuss partnership with the good deals, and let the HyperGuest manage the technical part for us. That is the best part of the marketplace.
Excellent. Okay. Lovely. Okay. Now, I think at this juncture, let's check our Q&A. So all of those who are listening right now, please feel free to share your questions in the comment box, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. Okay. So while we're looking for it, okay, now I think we have one question from Ekalak Yesalam. How many hotels are you working with right now, and how many partners demand do you have worldwide? Okay, if this is to HyperGuest, okay, HyperGuest, we currently have over 30,000 hotels already enlisted in the market. In terms of demand, we have thousands already that we can able to connect. Majority of those initially has been onboarded on the European and American side, but Asia Pacific, we're confident enough to say that we've already onboarded the key players in the region. Okay.
At the moment, we don't have any more questions, so we are inviting you to write us on the chat. And let's wait for a second. If we won't see anything, Jerome, we can go to the next session.
For sure. I think I'll ask a question specifically to all the gentlemen. Probably I'd like to ask about, in terms of the earlier point about the leakage in terms of rates. Okay, this is a very interesting conversation we're in. What's your thoughts on this particular topic, and have you any observation as to how this model is playing a role specifically to this kind of phenomenon? I can see Sunish is ready to answer this.
Sure, I can take it. All right. I think parity has been something which has been there for years, and those rate parity issues will continue to be there. The only way that you can really control it is either you have a full control on your entire distribution, and if not, you create a parity department in there if your budget allows. We created one in 2018. We stopped it for a moment in pandemic, and then we restarted that in 2024. And we have it manned daily. They make sure that at different price points, as much as they can, go in and check out what rates have been sold on different point of sales and who are the ones who are really underselling us and all that. And I think one of the things is that the more we come to a place like marketplaces where we know that what is the rate we are going to put out there, then at least we have that control in there. So once you have that control, then you can say that, okay, now is a good time to talk to the big three and tell them, sorry, I cannot take it. And we are already doing that, right? Like, for example, many times on a marketplace, we put the right rate, but on some of the big threes, we put a 3 to 4% higher rate. One, to cover up for any additional taxes we have to pay in the future. And number two, to reduce the distribution and the bookings to come through their channels as much as possible, especially that now we have access to full distribution network, which can connect to a lot of B2B, B2C, everybody. Yeah, thank you.
Yep, I think I particularly resonate with the control part that you mentioned, Sunish, because in the past, we've been doing business together, wearing different hats. And I could attest that's one of the phenomenon in travel that at some point hotels are not having like much option to control. And it's always like the extremes, right? And some hotels went to the extreme wherein, okay, I am going to be eliminating all my contracted rates, or some of those went to completely bar. But some of the, I'm sure they weighted the pros and cons. But who would say which one is correct and which one isn't, right? But I think what you're trying to pinpoint is, number one, it should be aligned to your distribution strategy. Number two, there's a balance in between wherein you don't completely say no to one side and completely say yes, because at the end of the day, things are, especially with uncertainty of the market, if let's say we are presented with unfortunate events, and if you've been very dependent on one side and you wanted help on the other side, it may be a little bit of a stretch for you to change your approach 360. Therefore, the best ideal situation would be at least at some point a sweet spot in the middle. Okay, any other thoughts on that, gentlemen? Oh, okay. We have another question for PKFARE and HyperGuest. From a marketplace side observation, what are the common challenges, hurdles faced by new OTAs when getting started with integrating hotel supply? Okay, for PKFARE and HyperGuest, from a marketplace side observation, what are the common challenges, hurdles faced by new OTAs when getting started with integrating hotel supply? Okay. I think if I answer this, I think one of the teething challenges here, for example, is explaining the context to the other side of the equation. Because, for example, when HyperGuest speaks with PKFARE, and then when we try to connect to the accommodation side, and especially if the accommodation side is pretty new in the marketplace model, you're going to be presented with two types of challenges. Number one, explaining the model first, and then number two, integration, technical part. Normally, it should only be the technical part, the mapping related part. But here, you will really have to, because it's a new model. So at some point, it comes with a explanation of this technology, and at the same time, the execution, how to connect to the hotels, right?
Yeah, I guess also for the OTA, connectivity is definitely one of the challenge. But I would say the other part is to understand the demand and to curate the correct number of the hotels. Because normally when we're talking about integrated hotel trends, it can be a big hotel trend or it can be a very specific local regional hotel trends. And for the OTAs, the thing is now the distribution channel or the source market has been expanded. It's no longer a regional OTA, because most of the OTA right now, we mentioned about meta search, they have so many marketing tools to really expand the source market to globally. So really how to curate the right hotels to meet the right demand will be another challenge for the OTA that I would imagine.
Exactly. Okay, so now I think for those who will be sharing their questions, we will go over that offline. And yeah, let's move to our the last part actually of our today's session. And then please note, gentlemen, that this is the first time that we're going to be doing this. The past panel of HyperGuest, we've never done this, and you're going to be the first one to be joining this panel session. And I'd like to basically share with you and officially welcome you to a very interesting panel session that is called Hyper Talk. Okay, so welcome to Hyper Talk. And this is actually inspired by some of the TV show that I'd watched, wherein the hosts will be asking questions to the person being interviewed, but the person should answer it candidly. And for the gentleman, please, we're going to do this on a traditional way of a thumbs up and thumbs down if you disagree. So when you hear that word, okay, that sound, please feel free to cast your vote, and our audience will be seeing your responses. And for the listeners, we're going to be displaying the context and question on the screen, so you you can follow what we're discussing. Okay, so there's going to be 5 questions and context, and please share with your honest opinion as to what will be your mental model or context about this specific phenomena. Okay, so the first question, I think we've been talking about this in the past 30 minutes, and the first question that we want to hear from everyone is, okay, rate parity is dead. Is it? Okay, please cast your answers. Rate parity is dead. Okay, so one more. Okay. Sorry. So when you say thumbs up or thumbs up, please raise your hand in the camera so we would know. Okay. Okay, down. Okay, so we're having like a contest answers here. Okay, Sunish, okay, this is a very interesting result. The hotel is saying it's dead, and then the man is saying no, it's not dead. So let's probably hear from Sunish. Very quick one. Why do you
Yeah,
think the party is dead?
I think rate parity depends upon the way a hotel, a distribution platform, or anybody looks at it. The hotel can really control it in the best possible way for me. I would say if you're a hotel and you say that there is so many low rates available for my hotel, which is lower than my direct distribution channel, which is my own brand website, it's not anybody else's fault, it's your own fault. You are the one who can control that. So that's where it's called commercial strategy, where sales and the e-commerce distribution all offline and online have to work together. They have to make sure that if you are yielding your rates, your travel agency rates have to be yielded or closed down. Otherwise, those rates are going to be coming out. Your B2B rates have to be yielded. So it's all in the hands of the hotel. I'll tell you, 2017, I started it on my own brand website. I keep 6% gap. It sometimes changes up and down, but it's always there. That will not 100% kill my rate parity issues, but it at least gives us 90% of the times the chance to have a better rate shown to the customer on a meta search or when they look for the rate anywhere.
Thank you for that, Sunish. Especially what I'm getting is the hotels are the one deploying the rates. And
Yes,
second,
absolutely.
we've been fixing this for over a decade now, if you come to think of it, and it's still here. So that's why Sunish has no reservation of saying, it's dead. Thumbs up. Okay, thanks for that. You know what? I feel like we need to have a part 2 of this panel, no? We have to have a second session. Now, from the demand side, okay? So you answered in this question that, okay, you don't agree that it's not dead. Who wants to go first?
I think Chun can go first. They're the bigger company right now.
For me, from the demand side, the point is the whole distribution ecosystem is complicated between hotels, between the end user or the end customer. The layers in between is getting it's crazily expanded, it's crazily complicated. So I would love the rate parity issue to be that, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to be that just yet. A good technology like a marketplace can make a very good control, which is a very good thing to make it in order, to make it more compliant. But I'm just not optimistic yet already that to say rate parity is that. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Okay, Sachin, do you want to add something?
I think from from an OTA side, for me, I'm not sure if it's really dead, but for us, this is something where we start the conversations with our partners. So we would never like it to be dead. We would always want it to be there in hotel's mind. I'm being an ex-hotelier. I would always want it to be in my mind, even though I can consider it dead as an hotelier. But as an OTA, I think it gives us a reason to reach out to them to discuss how we can tackle it together and make the best out of it.
I think this result is very interesting because especially to our audience who are a mix of hoteliers and agents, this shows us that from the perspective, they're not really transfixed to okay, rate parity if you don't follow your debt or you're not gonna work with you. In fact, they approach it pragmatically as well, that they know that this is a reality that we need to face and we just make the most out of it. And from the demand perspective, OTA and B2B, on the contrary, in the eyes of the hoteliers, on the hotels, most of the time we're like, you guys are like the bad guys, are causing it. But here, they are expressing their high intent of actually fixing it from the technology, commercial, and integration model perspective. So this is a very interesting result. And we can't help but to move forward to the next one. Okay. So for the next context, the next question. Okay. Do wholesalers still matter? Okay. I think at some point Chun has slightly this. But gentlemen, please feel free to raise your answer in, okay, up, down. Okay, Sunish is up. Okay, Chun is up. Okay, so we have a unanimous decision. So I think for this, if one of you can share your thoughts, why do you think? Chun, you already answered earlier. So probably let's give chance to wholesaler from the hotel perspective. Let's go to the hotel perspective. Why do you think
Yeah, absolutely.
matter?
You have to also look at it in terms of how the hotels are structured, right? The structure of a hotel, especially in Philippines and all, there's no commercial structure. The structure is where many times it's just the sales which manages even online channels in some cases, in certain hotel cases, right? And obviously, even in the hotels where you have a separate revenue management system or a head looking after the e-commerce side and all that, even there you will see that there is a separate sales team which manages the wholesalers. I would really want the wholesalers to be really going the digital way. And that's where I think a marketplace helps, because the more digitally they go, the more we can at least manage what is the rate you really want to give out to everybody. B2C channel should be able to get the same rates as a B2B channel. That should be the way forward. And if there's a commission involved, everybody gets similar kind of commission. And that should be the model on. Because then in that case, you're all on a level playing field. And hotels will always understand that the control has to be with us. But if everybody is not thinking the commercial way, then in that case, it can never happen. Everybody will say, I have to get my business. It comes at a 10% lower rate, doesn't matter. At the end, I need to get this business because it has to be for this part. So that basket has to become one.
Exactly. And I think that raised a very important point we're in, that our definition of measuring the business now includes being able to be connected in your system, because if you're not, the property will not be really able to measure the channel, because technically basing on the book business is very singular and one aspect versus to also understanding if they're abiding with your strategy, distribution strategy. Kim, do you want to add anything?
Sorry, you're asking me?
Yes, Sachin, your point and your perspective.
Yeah, just not so much. Actually, wholesalers still matter, and I think they will continue to matter. I think the right way to look at it is wholesale is shifting a bit more dynamic for good thing for the hotels as well as for the wholesalers. I don't think they're going to be dead. They are elevating their experience. They're adding more and more products into what they sell. I'll give you an example. There's a very close friend of mine. Much of his business from India outbound to Thailand to Indonesia and Philippines happens through face value business. And these are very well educated people who come and book through him. So he is a wholesaler. His business continue to thrive. So as long as it can go dynamic, it doesn't have to sit on a piece of paper where you cannot have control. I think, let's say, Sunish, if they have a control on when to close it, when to increase the rates, when to give a new promotion, that's where I see wholesalers heading. So I don't think they're going anywhere. They still matter and they will continue to matter. Yeah.
Lovely. And especially if you're going to look at when the B2B travel companies has been there in the market for over 3-4 decades already. And yep, we can only tell as they evolve. Now, let's move to the next question, which is somewhat related to this wholesaler thing. Now, the next question is, will contracted rates soon vanish? Okay, in the midst of all the discussion around distribution, rate integrity, integration leakage, contracted rates soon vanish. Now, I want you to think of this very carefully because I think this is not only a discussion today, but will still be around for the next 3 years, 3 to 5 years in the industry. Will contracted rates still be relevant or rather soon vanish? Gentlemen, please, your votes. Okay? Thumbs up or thumbs up? We have Sachin, thumbs up. Oh, thumbs up. 2,002/1. Wow, what a result. Okay, so maybe let's hear first.
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. I think as much as I want to, as much as many of us want to, it will not happen because especially that they always are going to come up with this strategy saying that, hey, there are particular places where we only sell by selling it in a, what you call that, in a contractual way where you have those rates, the packages, airline, everything has been all put together. And that cannot move because, so if you don't give me a fixed contracted rate, obviously I will not be able to put you into this program. So that will always be there, right? So at the end of the day, unless the market really becomes bullish. If the market becomes bullish, I'll tell you it will disappear. But if the market is going to remain as it is today, where the demand goes up and down, what's going to happen is that the moment the demand goes down, the other side will always ask, hey, see, I told you. See, now you're not getting any business because you're not giving out those. But at the end of the day, like for example, I'll tell you, 2012, when I came into the group, Chroma, there were only 3 hotels at that time, actually 2 hotels. And now we are 8 hotels. But at that time, 95% of the business used to come from one market, and 92% of the total business used to come from pure wholesale. Come 2018, it became 10, 12%, going from 95 to 12 to 15%. That's a big change. And even today, I think online, we do around 57% of our business. Wholesale business, maybe not more than 10 to 15%. And obviously but then you also have to remember this, right? A lot of the OTA business which is coming in, you really don't know how much of that was also coursed through a wholesaler somewhere in the middle. It could be a wholesaler putting his wholesale rate into a certain channel, or it could be a OTA, a wholesaler buying from a certain channel. So that's there. So that's why they are going to be there.
I think a lot of OTAs who are listening now that are probably drinking more coffee when you're talking about that in the distribution. But I would agree that a lot of economists that are listening now, specifically your angle on supply and demand and the possibility of having contracted rates still relevant or not is dependent on the supply and demand that's pertinent to a market. Now, of course, this panel will not be equally fair if we're not going to be asking the other side of the coin. Sachin, you answer otherwise. So if we can have your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you didn't give me a chance to stay neutral, so now I have to answer. I think going back to the conversation from Sunish, I think he's rightfully mentioned that in some markets, business only happens in a certain way, and you cannot change that at this point. I think we should not name the markets, but they are somewhere in Europe, some markets in Asia Pacific as well. But I think is soon and slowly changing more into wholesale contracted dynamic sort of business where hotels have more control. We've seen bigger chains taking steps towards it where they're taking away the static contract. I think we should say static contracts. They're taking away the static contracts and moving more towards the distribution managed contracts. So that's where I see it headed. I think vanish is a big term. It will not go anywhere, but a significant drop, as Sunish has mentioned. I have seen it in the hotels where I have worked, a huge drop. And another thing which we just heard, like OTA selling wholesaler rates is happening, so difficult to track where it actually really came from. In summary, I think it will not vanish completely, but it is vanishing in terms of volume it used to drive. Dependency it used to make hoteliers feel like, okay, you have to get at least 70% of business from wholesale, otherwise you cannot cover the bottom line and stuff. Yeah, I think that's how I see hotels contracted rates.
Clearly, it's in terms of dependence, the industry is gearing towards lower dependence to contracted rates. And if I may add on that, instead of vanish, rather, I think if it's in a model wherein hotels are encouraged to see transparency, control, I think this could be on an advantageous side for the hotel business. Now, June, anything you want to add? You answered disagree.
Yeah, no, I think Sunish has already explained very well about the rate, and I'm not an expert in the hotel rate, but my point was that we're in a very highly fragmented market. My view is that the rates are soon going to decrease, and it's going to decrease to a big scale, but to vanish, maybe not so soon yet.
Okay, loud and clear. Okay, thanks for that. Now, let's go to the next question. I cannot let this session end without asking this two-letter word, AI. Okay, the next question is, will AI price the hotel rooms better than humans? Okay, so we've been hearing about this AI for the past 3 to 5 years already. I don't think we're going to be having enough talks about that. But in terms of pricing, okay, will AI price hotel rooms better than humans? Okay, gentlemen, please raise your answer. Okay, we see thumbs up. Sunish, thumbs up. Chun, thumbs up. Okay, we have a unanimous decision. Now, any thoughts? Please, anyone can start to share your thoughts.
Maybe I can take it. See, even before AI came in, there was machine learning and all that stuff. And I guess if you look at it, even from year 2001, when ideas came into the market for intercon and all that, one thing is there. I'll tell you, 2006, 2004. 2004 in Dubai, when I did not even knew about what revenue management is. I was a front office person, mainly looking after guests, welcoming them and all that stuff. And I had friends from Hilton in 2004 talking about the rate changing. They will say, oh, my rate changed 6 times this today by the system. My rate changed 8 times today. It's not, there's no right and wrong in that. As a revenue management person, being in revenue management for the last 18 years, even though first 6 years, I had no revenue management, but next 18 years, mostly in revenue management. One of the things is the Excel sheet can only do limited things, plus 1 to 2 persons as revenue analysts or revenue managers, directors, whatever revenue VP you are. You would not be able to look at the next 365 days for 8 hotels, 10 hotels, 50 hotels, 100 hotels. And you would not be able to make sure that each and every opportunity is not missed. If midnight suddenly in Singapore, what like people did not knew about, let's say Taylor Swift. But midnight it was announced when the revenue manager was sleeping at his house, and the bookings started booming in or going into the system at a rate of $200, which could have been sold at $2,000. In that case, maybe I'm exaggerating in this case, but still, 200 to 2,000. In between that, if he was able to see 10 bookings coming in, the system said 200 goes to 250. Next 5 booking goes to 280. Next 5 booking it goes to $300. So by the time the revenue manager comes into the office next day morning, 8 a.m., he opens his laptop and his coffee, and then the first thing he sees, there's already 30 bookings have come in, but most of those bookings have come between $250 to $350 instead of the $200 rate, which was your normal rate. So that's where I would say that something like AI, something like machine learning is going to really change all of that. Because if you're going to put your AI on autopilot for a revenue management system, and you would say that, hey, when this happens, automatically do this. If it knows all of those formulas which are being fed by humans based on all the studies which are done, and plus obviously AI has its own models and all that, then in that case I would say that the hotel will not leave money on the table. But at this moment, if we are not doing that, obviously we are all leaving money on the table. It's about the opportunity cost.
That makes sense, because I think this is when we, at some point, we're putting steroids, our team on steroids in understanding more data, digesting more insights of the market in aid of better decision towards our pricing. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we can only monitor what's going to be the development, especially now we're in ChatGPT was recently launched. I was just reading a study about the IQ level of ChatGPT 5, which apparently is now around 160 or above. And for the context of our audience, Albert Einstein IQ apparently was somewhere around 165 to 170. And that's Albert Einstein. Can you imagine when he was explaining the law of relativity and nobody could understand him? And now this ChatGPT is somewhere around 160 to 165. And that is across all disciplines, not only with one particular task. And it could only augment the capability of human beings. And I think this is where the value lies as to when to reject and accept the recommendation of those AI. And at the same time, how we store the learnings from those decisions, right and left. Now, Chun, Sachin, any other thoughts on AI? Especially, I think OTAs and B2B partners, we are also harnessing a lot of benefits from AI, especially in understanding massive amount of data that's going to your platform. From specifically in trying to forecast the next hotel that they're going to be booking, the rate plan that they're going to be booking, do they need with breakfast or whatnot? So what's your thought on this? And I see you voted agree that the AI will price the hotel rooms better than humans.
Okay, I can go first. We have small data, so we are trying to find quick ways of learning from it. I think from an OTA perspective, especially because, as I said before, we do combinations. So it is giving us a really good insight depending on who's actually coming onto our platform, what sort of combos they are looking for, when do they actually not book. when do they book, which hotels are priced at what range. So taking all this data into consideration, we actually use AI to price a combo better. It could be slightly lower than what we receive. It could even be higher than what hotel is selling us. But it depends on the conversion. It depends on many things. So we feed this data into our system, and we have our own small model of AI right now studying this data. We are also this is just a use case. So some of the hotels have started using our booking engine to combine their hotels in different destinations. So let's say a property in Bangkok for a hotel chain combined with Pattaya. So we are also supplying this AI-driven data to them. So let's say if a hotel got no bookings and there are 100 people viewing that particular combo, we give them some AI recommendations for that combo. We also give it when let's say they have 30% conversion. Where could they go? Up, down, whether stay flat, depending on the demand from the market. So I think AI is definitely going to price it better. It has access to more data. It's rather quicker than what we can look at as a human or analyst or anybody else. But there's a very good point Sunish has mentioned. You cannot leave it on autopilot. It can do things you wouldn't want it to do. So I think human interaction is required, particularly if you're looking at the hotels, OTAs for pricing point of view.
Definitely.
I agree with Sachin and Sunish. I think at PKFARE, we used to have a pricing team that do the pricing manually, but already we have started to apply for the AI tools, but totally agree that AI has to be trained, AI has to be educated. So actually we're spending quite a lot of time to input, to engage with the big data, with our daily operation numbers, to the AI to train them to understand and identify the seasonality, the demand, the supply, and the availability of the hotel, the competitiveness of the rate in our system. Yeah, definitely. The AI is a future, but they have to be trained at first.
Yep, definitely. So clearly this is a unanimous decision. AI will be definitely augmenting and helping our teams and our organizations to price the rooms better and hopefully yields to better profitability. Now, the last question of this panel session, this is very close to our hearts. And yep, so the last question will be, okay, the future of APAC distribution is marketplace driven. Okay, gentlemen, your answers? Okay, thumbs up. Yay, let me add on that as well. Yes, definitely. And then that's how I think that's the best way to end the session. And on behalf of HyperGuest and on behalf of all our listeners and audience this afternoon, gentlemen, thank you very much for your wonderful thoughts and insight. I think the past 60 minutes is not enough to talk about this, and we really appreciate your expertise. And to everyone who's joining, who's still patched in, thanks everyone for joining us today. Definitely the marketplace model is here. It gives hotels and agents more control, more speed, and more transparency. And it's already proving itself in Asia Pacific. We hope you'll continue exploring this model after today's sessions. And for any question we didn't get to answer, we'll definitely follow up on offline. And our panelists are all in LinkedIn, so please feel free to connect with them directly. And don't forget to scan this QR code to learn more about HyperGuest and how we can support your distribution strategy. Thank you very much. And that concludes our session. Gentlemen, appreciate your time. Sunish, have a safe flight. Chun and
Thank you.
Sachin,
Thanks,
see you
guys.
very
Bye.
soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Jerome.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.